Hello, many thanks for joining us on this edition of One on One. My name is Felicity Eziwike. Today on the program, we have a political activist, an engineer, and most importantly, he was a former presidential candidate with the National Conscience Party in the 2015 election. I'm talking about Multiple Chief Martin Onovo. We'll be talking on a range of issues on this edition. Thank you very much for coming on the program.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Where have you been?
Well, here and there. Here and there. Since I wasn't running for political office, I didn't leave politics completely because I have other political activities with other groups. So there are several fronts in which political activities are involved, but contesting for office, no, not this 2019.
Okay, you're currently without a party.
Oh, yes, yes, I left my party.
What informed that decision?
Well, in the simplest terms, when you can no longer agree on what you're doing, how you're doing it, and why you're doing it. And in religious terms, it says, how can two people work together if they don't first agree? So if we do not agree about what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're going to get it done, then it's meaningless working together.
We have 91 political parties as it stands. So if you're no longer with the National Conscience Party, which of these would be your option?
Well, there are several options because the Nigerian political environment is dominated, in fact, over-dominated by social democrats. Of all the registered political parties, over 90% are social democratic platforms. So for a social democrat like me, it's easy to find a platform. The current ruling party, the former ruling party, if you look at their manifestos, those are social democratic manifestos. So it's easy for a social democrat to find space in the Nigerian political field. So it's easy for me to find space, but that's not the only criterion for making a decision. Because why do you join a political party? You join a political party to push a political agenda. Now, if because you couldn't agree with people in party A, you go to party B, and these same disagreements rise up because you didn't double check on what they actually stand for and how they stand for it. Because, for example, we have seen parties that came to office with a clear campaign manifesto, but once they seized office, they started doing other things different from what they proposed they were going to do in office. That's clear. So because of that, you need to be sure of the people you have this political relationship with, because otherwise it becomes ineffective. The strength of the group is in their team spirit. That's collaboration. If a group doesn't have it, that group is weak. So it's not like you won't run for election. Well, what are the chances of winning?
Okay.
So you don't go to run for an election because elections stretch you to your physical limits. Elections stretch you to your mental limits. Elections stretch you to your spiritual limits. Elections stretch you to your social limits. On every dimension, running an election will stretch you to your limits. Financial, every dimension. So it's not something you do as a joke.
Okay, so you were a presidential candidate,
yes,
and that's like the highest office,
oh, yes,
in the land.
Yes.
Why didn't you come back, or?
I didn't come back because the circumstances did not assure me that I was going to win.
But do you actually need an assurance that you will win in order, because there must have been something...
It's wasteful to embark on a venture knowing you will not be successful. That's wasteful. Why would you do all that? Now, nobody is sure of tomorrow, but you have to do the calculations. That's my point.
Yeah, it's an election. You're saying you're not sure of a win. There are about 31 presidential candidates. Is it your opinion that of these 31 presidential candidates, some of them know that they are going to win, or they don't know that they are going to win? They are just in it for it?
Oh, clearly, not just some of them. An overwhelming majority know they're not going to win. How are you going to win? How do you win an election?
That's a very skeptical position to take.
No, it's not. That's the fact. If you get inside, you know that that's how it is. I'm not telling you. It's
supposed to be about votes. It's supposed to be about the Nigerian public. Yes. It's supposed to be about issues.
Will the Nigerian public vote for you if they don't know what you stand for?
And that's why you should choose a party and maybe make an effort.
Agreed. When you choose that party, can that party tell people what you stand for? Are resources required? Is time required? So it's not a simple decision to make. When I ran in 2015, we had confidence that we could win in a free and fair election. And we made that clear. We had confidence because the platform I ran on is the oldest political party in this Fourth Republic. Founded in 1994, before the former ruling party that was founded in 1998. Before the present ruling party that was founded just less than 7 years ago.
Okay, but aside from that, even in that 2015, there were key presidential candidates.
We were just 14.
That we know.
We were just
14 presidential candidates. And of that 14, there were like 3 or 2 top contenders at that time. You felt confident enough in the process. I think Jaga was the head then.
Yes.
In the process that you would win. So what happened to change that belief that you can win on the platform that you were on?
Well, I think you misunderstood me a little bit. Now, I said clearly, and we campaigned, that in a free and fair election, we would win. Now, the question is, did we have that in 2015? If you believe that 1.9 million votes were cast in Kano in 2015 without a void vote, I leave you to your beliefs. If you believe that INEC was able to return votes from territories that the government claimed were under Boko Haram control, I leave you to your beliefs. If you believe the voter turnout results that we had, I leave you to your beliefs. But I'm not going to agree with you. But I'm coming. In 1993, when Chief Mushood Abiola ran against Alhaji Bashir Tofa, I was a presiding officer for the National Electoral Commission. So I also have experience of conducting elections.
International communities and observers attributed some credibility to that 2015 election. And remember, it is also, not to interrupt you, it is also the election that saw a sitting president removed from office, and who was gentlemanly enough and made history by conceding to defeat even before the election results were announced. And many also put a lot in stock on the reputation of Jega, who was the head of INEC at that time. Yes, there were challenges. No process is completely flawless. But that election was adjudged as one of the freest in this country, without violence, actually.
It depends on who you claim adjudged it. I will advise you to read Jonathan's latest book, and you will find out that his opinion agrees with my opinion here. You can do things for other reasons. Sometimes you can let your right slip because you just want to maintain peace. If you read Jonathan's last book, it's very clear there. That election was not worth it. Let us go with the facts. Agreed, you don't expect perfection. But you expect what in law, Nigerian law says, substantial compliance. When out of 69 million registered voters, you disenfranchised 14 million with impunity, if that represents a good election for you, that's your opinion. With impunity. I have registered as a voter, you will not give me PVC. And I'm using official numbers. These are INEC official numbers. 69 million registered voters, 55 million PVCs. And most of the people disenfranchised were from particular regions. Excuse me, please. Politics goes beyond that.
Okay.
Elections are rigged before the actual elections.
So what do you propose that be done to change the scenario in such a way that you will be encouraged? Because you're part of the system, you're part of Nigeria. Oh, sure. So what have you been doing since 2015 to address some of these concerns you raised, and how can we ensure that our electoral process is free and fair?
I do not have the capacity of President of the Federal Republic or the capacity of an INEC chairman, because I don't hold those positions.
Fair enough.
Now, but
you hold the most important office.
We know
you hold the most important office.
That most important office has been overthrown. That's the reality. It's been overthrown. What we're trying to do is to restore it.
Okay.
That's the reality. I mean, we have had INEC announce results and the courts overthrew them.
So what are you doing to help along?
No, but we need to make this point, because otherwise it will look like I conceded your position, and I'm not going to concede it because I know it not to be true.
Okay.
I know it not to be true. Elections are normally rigged before the actual day of voting. For example, if you are my opponent in an election, and I know the regions where you're strong, and I'm able to disenfranchise people there, that gives me advantage. And I can tell you many ways of disenfranchising people. Not just one way. So that's one. A free and fair election is not just free, it's also fair. Now, what defines fairness? There's an electoral act, there's a constitution. The Electoral Act, as at our time in 2015, said you can't spend more than $1 billion on a presidential election. And parties spent 300 billion, 400 billion. By law, they are not qualified to contest. But to the media, they won the election. So it's not that simple. It's not that simple.
Where are you getting those figures from, if I may ask?
Well, it's easy to get.
Well,
it's very easy.
But where did you get it?
INEC officially said 1.5 trillion was spent on those elections. Use those numbers. They're even worse than the numbers I have used. Let me tell you, these things are easy to audit. But in Nigeria, we're living in denial. Prime time, 30 seconds on NTA is over ₦1 million. But to you, it's a jingle. I know the cost because I have the rate sheet for NTA. So you don't have an idea what these things cost.
Okay,
and that's also a problem to the Nigerian economy. The money that goes to elections. It's a very big problem. And if the media cannot admit it, then it means the problem will continue, because you must identify a problem before you can solve it. Because it's not just that they overspend it, it's also what's the source of the money. It's slush funds.
So what's the national, because that's the body that's emboldened to make laws that we can use as a country. What is the National Assembly doing in this regard?
The laws are in place. There's no compliance. That's what we're talking about.
So who is responsible to
INEC.
Sure.
INEC.
And do you think that they have the capacity to do that?
INEC claimed they didn't have the capacity during our elections, but they had the capacity to determine the amount after the elections. If you believe that, that's your belief. That's not mine. We need to be a little bit more critical. Please. We need to be a little bit more critical. We can just take this trash and continue to live like this.
Things must change, but all of us
we cannot continue to take this.
Yeah, you've been able to identify most of those problems, and
if we accept it, it wouldn't change.
I said something about the office of the Nigerian citizen. You vyed for the office of the president of this country, and in between 2015 and now, a lot has happened in this country. Do you think that by staying away from politics, you're actually helping active campaign? You're actually helping the process? Because if you have such laudable ideas on how we can change the system, and you're staying away from it.
I'm not staying away from politics. I'm staying away from contesting for office.
That's exactly my point.
Okay.
If you have ideas and you're not willing to put yourself out there because you're feeling that you might not make the cut because of one thing or the other. But we must find a way to get through even a flawed system in order for us to make changes.
You're right. You have to do a proper assessment, which is what we have done. What is the proper assessment? Unless you want to impose yourself, you must respect democracy. What is democracy? Democracy is that if the majority is corrupt, corruption prevails. If the majority is stupid, stupidity prevails. That's the meaning of democracy, whether you like it or not. Democracy is not theocracy from God. It's not God that's in power, it's the people. And it's a majority of the people. And sometimes it's a false majority. Because otherwise, you won't have godfathers in politics. Godfathers have one vote. But they have enough capacity to corrupt the process. And that's why godfathers are powerful, not because they have 2 votes.
Okay, so what's your take? Well, let's just
that's just one example.
Okay.
Because you seem to believe that the process is fair and square.
Nobody is naive enough to believe that it's completely. But we, as a country, we're working, and we can see the effort being expended by INEC and every other within the security agencies to do what they can to clean up the system. So if they are doing that, and we're saying, oh, because it was flawed in the past, there is no chance of it becoming better. We have the PVC now. We didn't have that like 7 or 10 years ago. So there is progress.
We're seeing abuses here. We're seeing abuses.
Of course, there will always be abuses.
We are seeing the police go to one rally and disperse it and allow the rally of the ruling party. We saw that in Ekiti. And the police went to disperse.
You see, what I'm trying to achieve here is for us to
you're trying to paint a good picture. And I'm saying you need to paint a bad picture so you can fix it.
Yes, we understand that it is bad. And you have been able to clearly state that.
And that's why we need to fix it.
Yes.
Thank you.
So now that you've identified this, I'm saying, if you still feel that the situation is bad, what are we doing? What are you doing in your capacity? You want it to be, there must have been passion somewhere for you to want to be president of this country. Did that passion die? Identifying the problems is all we've been doing since we've been having this conversation.
The passion did not die. You have to calibrate the passion with the reality. For example, the Nigerian constitution recognizes federal character. I believe in federal character. Those who drafted that constitution are brilliant people. Those who led to its adoption are brilliant people. And I think federal character is a good policy. Hypothetical situation. You want to run for office, but your area is zoned out. What do you do? Hypothetical. Because you're making it simplistic. You want to run, you have ideas, therefore you must run. There are other factors. That's what I mean. There are other factors.
We'll go on a short break. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Glad to know you're still with us. This is One-on-One on Plus TV Africa. I still have with me Martin Onovo, a former presidential candidate with the National Conscience Party. A pleasure to have you here again.
Thank you again.
Okay, let's go to the campaigns as we have them. The election is just around the corner. What do you make? You campaigned in 2015, and we're having this kind of campaign now. Of the two, what would you say have changed? What has remained the same? And what should evolve?
From my experience, 2 things drive the campaign. The candidate and the party leadership / the party manifesto. Because the party leadership is going to bring the personalities in the lead positions to reflect on the manifesto. Those 2 things drive campaigns. But principally, I've listened to many of the candidates. And as an informed citizen, what I listen to here are clear solutions to the biggest problems.
Not to distract you, but I was looking at the campaign flow compared to when you were in the system campaigning for office and what you are observing now, you know, sitting on the sidelines.
And that's what I'm saying, that for me, what I look out for, first is integrity before anything else. Okay. What is integrity? In my simplest terms, it is say what you mean what you say. So if I know that you're saying what you don't mean, I cannot consider you as a reasonable candidate for office. You have to say what you mean. Otherwise, you're being deceitful. Say what you mean what you say. And you know that politicians like me are accused of making false promises. Accused. So if I can identify that you're making a false promise, either from your profile or from your antecedents, or from the inconsistency in your positions, I can't buy your position. And in answer to your the first part of your question, I had said that campaigns are driven principally by the candidate and then the leadership of the party. So if the same party that presented me presents you, you will see the tilt that the personality will bring to the campaign. So you don't expect it to be the same as long as the candidate is not the same. And even if the candidate is the same and the party platform or the party leadership is not the same, you will see a different bent to it. Now, the PDP campaign has gone to several zones, and they go out there to the field. In 2015, what our party did was that we did zonal campaigns. And the zonal campaigns were not, they were road shows. They were not gathered in one stadium. So they were road shows. We moved out to the streets, and we went along all the major roads. But that is not, we didn't do that in every state. So we did that in zones. For the North Central, for example, we did it in Abuja. For the Southeast, we did it in Enugu. Okay. So that's what I mean. It will not be the same format. Okay,
let's look at the situation in party politics now as it stands. We have a situation in Imo State. We have a situation in Rivers. That of Rivers is unprecedented. The court has struck out the candidacy of all APC participants. What do you make of these infighting? Let's start with the situation in Rivers State quickly.
First, I will want to state categorically that that's not final. Until it's a Supreme Court judgment, it's not final. And
but it's unprecedented, and it's so close to the election.
Until it's a Supreme Court judgment, it's not final. And there's nothing to panic about. Do you know why? The Omehia Amechi case, where Omehia was the candidate on the ballot, but Amechi became the governor.
Yeah, I remember.
So, and INEC has made it clear that, yes, a party can contest an election even if though the candidate is in dispute. When that is resolved, if the party wins, that candidate takes the office. And the particular example is from the same Rivers. Omehia was on the ballot. Amechi became governor.
Yeah, well, at this time is no candidate from the
It's not final. Wait till we get to the Supreme Court so that you can speak about it with finality.
Okay, what about the situation in Imo State? Rochas Okorocha and...
But the situation is resolved. The candidate of Rochas has gone to Action Alliance.
Yeah, but the party has suspended Okorocha.
Yes, but his candidate has gone to Action Alliance. So his candidate is running. And just like I said, almost all the platforms are social democratic platforms. So a social democrat can fit into over 90% of the parties in the country. And Nigerians are mostly social democrats, what in some other climes they call welfareists.
Okay, so when are you coming back to campaign and be a candidate and push for change?
You can't impose yourself on people. It's a democracy.
Yes, but you said something about setting precedents, integrity, and all of that. Sure. So if you...
No, that's what you sell.
Okay.
But you can sell integrity and people say, no, that's not what matters now. What matters...
have you tried again? You only did it once.
No. Actually, I aspired in 2011.
Oh, really?
Well, yes, I aspired in 2011. Then I ran in 2015. So it wasn't my first time in 2015. But it's a democracy. You need to get enough people to agree. And you have to do that in stages till you win the final election. Because to become the candidate, you have to get enough people in the party to agree at the primaries that you should be the candidate. It's a democracy. And it's not a theocracy. So it's not God that knows all, that is going to choose the best candidate. It is what people think. And sometimes perceptions are not correct.
Okay, on a final...
And if your opponent is able to tell a sweet lie about you and people believe it, that can also defeat you. That's the reality.
And we see that playing out to
that's the reality.
So on a final note, we had the debates recently. We've had some debates here and there, governorship and presidential candidates. So what would be your assessment of the process in itself? Are debates still relevant today? Because we've seen scenarios where the candidates that even perform very, very well in debates turn out not to win election.
Well, it depends on who's making the assessment. And you also have to find out why they failed. Because I think the best candidate in the debate is the best candidate for the position. Because the debate is the basis for the position. if you assume that they have integrity, they are not being deceitful. Which is the first consideration. And that's why I said if a candidate doesn't have integrity, he needs to be dropped. If a candidate does not have WAEC and he says he has WAEC, he doesn't have integrity.
Thank you very much, sir, for coming.
Thank you very much.
Yes, that's where we're going to stop for today. More in subsequent edition on One on One. My name is Felicity Ezewike.